After the ice storm, a neighbor needed help to stabilize a small tree in his front yard that was now leaning. To prop it up, we use a 6-foot piece of board. We attach it to the ground 5 feet from the base. Okay, so we have boards 6 feet. We attach it to the ground 5 feet from the base of the trunk and attach it to the tree 3.5 meters up the length of the trunk. Through what, through was angle, through what, that should say what angle was the tree leaning? So just do that correction there. So that should say the word what. All right, so let's first of all, I need to draw a picture. So I'm going to start with, obviously I have the ground and I'm going to make the ground brown because it is brown. I have my poor tree that for some reason the storm wasn't very nice to it. And what it did is it made it, oh, I don't want a blue tree, I want a green tree. So here's my tree, but the problem is with my tree is the trunk of it is leaning. So instead of the tree being like this, straight up and down, it is now leaning. So it is leaning. Okay, so it's actually leaning pretty good. Now, what they've done is they've taken a 6-foot piece of board and attached it to the ground to prop up the tree. So we're going to take a straight line, and that's going to be our board. And we'll make our board, want it brown, brown. That's better. Okay, so here is our board holding the tree so that it doesn't fall over completely. And I'm told that that is 6 feet. So we need to put that measurement in. I'm also told that I put it in the ground, so the distance from here to here, from the trunk of the tree to where the board goes into the ground, is 5 feet. And I'm also told that I put it up on the trunk of the tree 4.3 feet up. Notice it says attached 4.3 feet up the length of the trunk. So I have 4.3. So now I have, if you look, oh, I have all 3 sides. So now it's asking through what angle was the tree leaning. Now what that means is if the tree was perpendicular to the ground, which we assume most trees would be, it would be here. Okay, so this would be perpendicular to the ground, and I actually wanted it dotted because it's not truly part of the tree situation. Okay, so there we have it, and what they're really after is they're after this angle right in here. This is really what they're after. How much did the wind blow it over? In other words, what was the angle the tree was leaning? Now you can see that the angle that I'm interested in is not in the triangle that I have. Okay, so what I need to do is if I could find this angle at the bottom of my diagram, and hopefully you can see that diagram, and what I'll do is I'll just actually make it larger for us to take a closer look at it. Okay, so they're interested in this big glob of red angle, and I do have a triangle and I could find this bottom angle. So that's what I'm going to do, and the way I'm going to find that is with the cosine law. Okay, so we're going to use the cosine law to find it, and I'm just going to, now that that's larger, it's a little bit easier to see, and I'm going to tell the person that I'm using the cosine law. So back to this cosine law. So I'm telling them cosine law. So I'm going to call this angle T because that's the angle I'm going to find because it's the tree, where the tree is. And so that means when I do my subtracting, I need to make sure I'm subtracting my 6 feet, the one that's directly across. So if you remember, the formula went the cos of the angle, and I'm calling it angle T, means I have to take my sides, my sides and add them after they're squared, and subtract the side that belongs to the angle T, and then do 2 times AB. Now when we do that here, we end up with A squared. Okay, and remember this is going to be our T squared, so we're going to leave it alone for a second. So it's 4.3 squared plus 5 squared minus our 6 squared all over 2 times 4.3 and 5. And remember when I said when we're doing this form, we're going to calculate the numerator first and write down that answer. And then we're going to calculate the denominator and write down that. And then we are going to do our dividing to get our ratio. Okay, so we're going to divide that now. And when we divide it, this is the number we get. Now remember, that's the cos of t. We want to find angle t. So we go back to our question and we take angle t is going to equal the cos inverse. Remember, we have to do a shift button on our calculator to get that, of our decimal ratio. And when we do that, we end up with approximately 80 degrees. So this angle inside the triangle is 80 degrees. Now remember, that's not what they were after. They were after how much is it leaning. So angle of lean then, angle of lean, notice I'm using English so people know exactly what I'm doing, equals obviously the 90 degrees, the perpendicular, minus 80 for a total of 10 degrees. That poor tree. So therefore, it is leaning 10 degrees. Okay, so now moving on to the third example.